Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This is the first of a year-long series on advancing employment. We have various topics prepared for the remainder of this year, but for today, this is kind of the first of a four-part series in partnership with Vocational Rehabilitation. So it's great that you all joined. I do want to give everybody just a quick heads up, and then I'll let Alicia kind of take over here. Today's session is going to be kind of an overview of the Vocational Rehabilitation Program. You are going to hear in the presentation today with Alicia some discussion about some of their other partnerships, including how they work with schools, behavioral health, and the Division of Developmental Disabilities. There will be some future topics coming up that dive much deeper into what those relationships look like. So, if you have questions, you certainly can ask them, but just keep in mind, for next month in March 23rd, the topic will be vocational rehabilitation and behavioral health. For April 27th, it will be DDD and vocational rehabilitation. And then for May 25th, it'll be vocational rehabilitation and their work with schools and transition-age youth. So just giving you all a heads up that those topics are coming. So it may be brief information today, but more information to come, I promise. On to you, Alicia.
Let me just get my screen up. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on your lunch break. I am Alicia Reese, and I'm with RSA Voc Rehab. And like Abel said, today I'm going to give a brief Voc Rehab overview, hopefully answer some of your questions, give you a better idea about our program and what we do. Please feel free to ask your questions, put them in chat. Abel will let me know the question as we go along, because I don't want to wait till the very end, although we will have time at the end to answer your questions. So as I said, I'm Alicia Reese. I'm the Arizona RSA Strategic Partnerships Manager. I have the pleasure of working with the different individuals in Voc Rehab that oversee the various programs that Abel already mentioned. I have been with RSA for 16 years now in various positions, very fulfilling agency, and I hope after this presentation you have a better understanding of what we do, and I hope that you can reach out and we can help either family, friends, or colleagues, or anyone else that you might work with. We are here to assist. In this presentation, I plan to go over what is vocational rehabilitation. You'll hear me refer to it as Voc Rehab or VR. What does Voc Rehab do? The benefits of working, a quick overview of the actual process, the specialty populations that Abel mentioned, resources, and then last, we'll have any last-minute questions that come up. So what is vocational rehabilitation, or VR? We are a work program. Our program assists individuals with documented disabilities to prepare and enter into the workforce. We do this in a variety of ways, with all sorts of services in order to address any barriers that might be prohibiting someone from going to work. We are a public program, and we are under Arizona DES. We do receive federal and state money. So what do we do at Voc Rehab? Well, as mentioned, we provide a variety of different services in order to help individuals that have a disability and have barriers that may be preventing them from going to work. We provide so many different services that I couldn't list them all. But here are some of the ones that are common that we get asked about. So vocational counseling and helping creating the job goal. That is our major service that we provide, and working with the Voc Rehab counselors is really figuring out what the job goal should be, whether that's involving past work history, interests, current trends, what's open out there, just really investigating and looking into what each individual wants to do, what they're capable of doing, what training they might need, things like that. We provide evaluations in order to do that, to determine the job skills needed, of course, looking into the interest. We provide training and education. This is a really popular service because we can assist with any education, if that's a degree program or a certification. We also help with preparing for getting the job. So those are the job interview skills, resume writing. We provide special equipment and technology needed So again, looking at those barriers that might be happening, might need some kind of technology in order to do the job, we can help with that. Assistance with getting training, services, and job sites and other work-related needs. So again, there are a variety of different services that we provide, but we just really need to work with the individual to figure out what those barriers are to that employment that are disability related. That being said, the benefits of working. I really like to discuss benefits of working just because I think a lot of times we forget how much of an impact work has on our lives and how much our society revolves around working, feeling a part of the community, having that financial independence, just the interactions. If you think about work right now, the interactions you have with your coworkers, the social aspect of that, the friendships you create, really giving you a sense of purpose. And I know it's on this slide, all of those things, the social professional networking, and then of course, reducing stigma. So just a reminder of how beneficial going to work is and what an impact it has on our everyday lives. So for this next part, I will be doing an overview of the vocational rehabilitation process. Please, again, feel free to ask questions as I go through each step. Again, this is just an overview, so it's not like a deep dive of every single action that's going to happen in each of these steps or this process. But I definitely wanted to provide an outline of what is going to be experienced working with Voc Rehab. The referral. So this is the initial step of when an individual is interested in learning more about Voc Rehab. So maybe they hear from you or someone else in the community, they hear about Voc Rehab and they outreach and say they're interested in the VR program. So what we ask is that you contact the local VR office, or you have the option of completing an actual referral online. Sorry, any individual has, I don't want to say you have the option, but a person has the option of completing a referral online. This is the website to do so. I am always going to recommend that you contact, or whomever it is, contact a local VR office. I think it just kind of cuts down the process of an online referral going to a mailbox and then it being sent out to the local office. So I will always recommend that. Once a referral is received by us, we will call to schedule an orientation appointment. An orientation is the next step of the process. The orientation really is
Alicia,
meant to be, oh, yeah.
sorry, Alicia, just a quick question on that. So once the referral is received by the local office, how long should a person expect to wait before they're contacted for the orientation appointment?
Thank you. Excellent question. It's 3 business days until you will be contacted once we receive the referral. So orientations are really meant to be just an overview of the VR program to make sure that individuals can make that informed choice on if this program is for them. We have our orientations at the local offices. We do them virtually now, and we are out in the community doing orientation. So really the intention again is really just to inform individuals of what our program does, if it's for them, if they have that interest, and answer questions, basic general questions about Voc Rehab. If there is an interest in applying after the orientation, we do let individuals know that we will be requesting documentation verifying their disability. And that documentation is requested that they bring that with them to the intake, which is the next step. So we have an intake interview / application. This is where we actually meet with the individual and get a background from them regarding their history, including work history, but also about their disability and how that's impacted them in their lives and their work. We ask about education, anything that might pertain to helping us with assisting them with services. We always encourage that they bring any kind of support with them, so family, friends, any other supporters out there. We want to make sure that they're as comfortable as possible, because it's a very awkward thing to participate in an intake interview. You're just meeting someone and we're asking you all these background questions and trying to dive into how disability has impacted this individual's life and work. So it can be pretty awkward and uncomfortable. So we want to make sure that they feel supported. So if bringing along one of their supporters will help, and we always encourage that. We also review those documents to verify the disability. We actually really need the self-report on how their disability affects them. I want to stress that, because while two people can have the same disability, it can impact them completely differently. So we need that information as well. The next step is, after we complete that intake and application, they sign their application for the VR program, we are then going to determine their eligibility. So we utilize all that information that we gathered during that intake appointment, as well as the documentation we received. And we look at these 4 bullet points that are on the slide for eligibility. These are the 4 requirements that everyone looks at in order to determine eligibility. Okay, so they have a documented disability. The disability presents as a barrier to employment. They require the VR services in order to become employed, and they can benefit from our services in achieving employment. Okay, so just those 4 criteria are what we're looking at to determine eligibility for the Voc Rehab program. Eligibility is determined within 60 days of that signed application. So that application, as I mentioned previously in the intake interview, is when we have that application signed. And from that day starts the countdown of 60 days from that signed application with us determining eligibility. The order of selection. This we get a lot of questions on, because order of selection is just a fancy term for wait list. The reason why we have this order of selection is, at one time, as a state VR program, we did not have sufficient funds in order to serve everyone that walked through our door. So RSA must then implement an order of selection. So the order of selection really is to determine the priority categories, so how individuals with disabilities affect them. So in Arizona, we have 3 priority categories. Priority 1 are individuals that have the most significant impact from their disability. Priority 2 are impacted by their disability, and priority 3 are all other individuals. As of now, this order of selection and these priority categories are open. So anyone that comes to us and applies for services will be provided services immediately. I say immediately because you will not go on this order of selection or wait list. Our funding, we have enough funding to serve individuals that are walking through our door. We still have this order of selection in place, because if we had insufficient resources to serve any individuals, then we would again implement these priority categories and this order of selection. But again, I repeat, at this time, we do not have, these priority categories are open. So we do still have the order of selection in place. We are serving everyone that applies to the Voc Rehab program and is eligible. I don't know if there's any questions with that. That usually brings up some questions. So the next step, once we determine eligibility, is we begin working on what we call the Individualized Plan for Employment, or IPE for short. This is the main document of the Voc Rehab case file for each individual. This will list the individual's employment goal that we work with them to determine, as well as the services that are going to be put into place to achieve that goal, and then objectives and responsibilities of everyone involved in this plan. So this is what we really work with our clients to determine, have discussions, those evaluations that I mentioned before, figuring out what is needed for the employment goal, what disability-related barriers might exist that we need to identify and help with, and really just making sure that we have a plan in place. These plans are written within 90 days of eligibility. So it is something that once you're eligible, we will contact to start working with the individual immediately, to start working on that and figuring out what the employment goal is and what the service needs are. This, of course, can change over time as the disability changes, needs to be modified, as figure out the workforce, the employment goal is no longer something that can happen, or if there's additional service needs that are required, or if there's any kind of training or certification attached that might change with that employment goal. It is not set in stone. And I always want to say that because sometimes I think individuals feel like once we set the goal, that's it. And that is not the case. We work to figure out if that employment goal is still viable and still all the services listed are what are needed. So it can change either employment goal, the service needs, where it might be. We can change it and amend it as needed. VR services. While we offer a ton of different services in order to address disability-related needs and employment goals, the services are not the same for everyone. So we always want to stress that because we tailor them to the individual. So depending on the disability-related needs and of course the job goal itself, the services may look different for two individuals that have the same job goal. The services that we provide are to address disability barriers as well as the actual employment goal. So I mentioned that because some training, degrees, certifications, even some work tools might be needed for that employment goal, and we can assist with that if that is needed. Again, that is something that would need to be discussed with the VR counselor to determine that. And then some services are based off economic need. We always want to stress that just because we don't want anyone to be surprised when we need that financial information. Some of those services that are popular that are based off economic need would be books. So if we were sending someone for their degree and they are needing books, obviously, for their classes, we would need to determine economic need to see if we could help assist with those books, purchasing any books that are needed. So employment. This is the goal of our entire agency, is for individuals to become employed. Once someone becomes employed after receiving their services, we do keep everyone open and we're in contact with them for a minimum of 90 days. Okay, so once an individual is employed, we keep in contact, checking in, making sure that there are no additional service needs, that everything's going well on the job stability has been attained, the individual's doing well, just really making sure that it's a good fit and everything's going well. I do have on here that job stability means disability-related needs have been addressed and the client has achieved the highest level of independence on the job. This is really important to us because the purpose of our agency is really for that self-sufficiency, for helping the individual address any barriers, become employed, and then maintaining that employment. As we know, maintaining the employment is often the hardest part. We want to make sure that we have that individual with any services that they might need to make sure that they're going to maintain that employment once we are no longer in the picture. And case closure with Voc Rehab. This does occur, like I mentioned, when we have that job stability. The individual satisfied with their employment, and we have kept them open a minimum of 90 days since being hired. And again, we're checking in, making sure everything's going okay, making sure there's no additional needs that need to be addressed. We have that conversation with our clients and making sure they're aware of the closure and what that looks like and what that means. We provide any information for any kind of resources they might need after we close them out. And just make sure that it's not any kind of shock or surprise when the closure occurs, and making sure to answer any questions for any of the clients might have. I did include this just because this is a roadmap. This is something that we provide during our orientation to individuals to kind of lay out just a little quick and easy kind of visual aspect of what the process looks like. Oh, and I see someone raise their hand.
Yep, yes, we've got a question.
Yes. Hello, my name is Shannon Strayhorn. I'm with TCH. I was wondering, once you've closed the case, what are the circumstances to reopen the case, or circumstances and the process?
Circumstances, and I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
The process in order to reopen their case.
Process, got it. Great question. So if the individual finds that they need our services again, either to maintain their employment, something happens, disability changed in some way, the job changed, they just find that they're going to need our services again, they would just come back and reapply with us. If the individual were to lose their job and maybe figures out that, you know what, this really isn't the employment goal for them, and they're going to need our services again, they can just reapply again. It's not a one-shot deal for Voc Rehab. Individuals can come back as much as they feel like they might need our services in order to become employed and maintain their employment.
Thank you.
Can I answer your question? Okay. Okay, so this roadmap really is just kind of a visual representation of our process. As you can see, it has the first step as the VR orientation, then our application and intake, eligibility, writing the work plan, and then participating in the services part, getting hired, and then last, you are employed. As previously mentioned, we do serve specialty populations, so we have specialty counselors in place for these populations, and I'm just going to go through them in the next 2 slides. As Abel mentioned, there will be additional presentations after this one in the next coming months that will dive into these a little bit more and be able to answer more questions related to them. Feel free to ask questions now, though, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability, but I highly recommend that if any of these populations are of interest to you, to please attend those sessions. So we have the transition school to work, so working with students that are 14 to 24. Behavioral health, and those are VR counselors that are actually assigned to the various behavioral health clinics statewide. Deaf, hard of hearing, VR staff that are proficient in American Sign Language. We have blind and visual impairment, so we have staff that are trained in the specialized needs and services for individuals diagnosed with any blindness or visual impairment. And then developmental disabilities, we work with the Division of Developmental Disabilities and have a partnership with them, as well as traumatic brain injury and spinal cord injury. We have VR staff trained in the specialty needs and as well as services and programs available for individuals that have a TBI or a spinal cord injury. Here are some resources that I wanted to provide. This is our website for the Rehab Services VR page on DES. DES website is quite large and can be confusing, so it's understandable if going in there and getting overwhelmed. So I wanted to provide this direct link to our actual page within the DES website, as well as the actual VR offices by county. As I said before, if there's an interest in applying to Voc Rehab or attending an orientation or asking questions, I'm always going to recommend actually contacting the local office. So that way you can get a direct response and direct connection to that VR office or VR counselors, the supervisor, and they can help you answering your questions or providing resources that you need. As well as listed on here is the disability benefits calculator for Arizona. You might have heard of it referenced as DB 101. This is actually a fantastic resource that RSA does fund for the state. It is open to everyone. It is a great resource in that it offers information about going to work, what that will look like, what programs are out there, if you're on Social Security, how that'll affect your benefits, what those benefits will look like. It has housing information on there, as well as just medical insurance information. Just a lot of different things on there. There's different videos that are being posted on there, kind of walking through what we call the benefits calculator, which is that calculator that will assist if an individual is receiving Social Security benefits. They can actually plug in what they are receiving, a couple other details, nothing really identifying, and then what they plan to make hourly or what they would like to make, and then they can actually see it'll calculate what it'll look like for them monetarily and what programs will be available for them and at what time those programs will be available to them. Because there are various programs out there that can assist individuals with maintaining their medical benefits, like while working. So they may not receive their monetary benefits of Social Security, but they will receive the medical benefits. So it's just letting individuals know about that information and walking them through that. I highly recommend, if you haven't been on this website, to please go take a look at it. It's changing all the time. It's up to date. We're adding more videos, walkthroughs on helpful information on what to do in certain situations are always being added to this website. So I highly recommend that you go ahead and take a look at that and suggest it to any individuals you might serve or family or friends that you know would benefit from it.
I will add quickly
And then
for everybody, we will be having a DB 101 presentation as well later on this summer. So there'll be an entire one of these dedicated specifically to DB 101.
And then any questions? Hopefully I didn't go too fast.
I am keeping an eye on the chat, but if anybody would like to just, raise their hand or come off mute and ask, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
Hi, my name is Monica Attridge, and I'm with the Hojoni Foundation in Flagstaff. We're somewhat of a recent entrant into the VR system. It's been over the last few years. And we have a lot of trouble getting referrals, as do the other agencies up here through the office here. And it's my understanding that's because they're of turnover and open positions and whatnot, and just wondered if that's getting any better.
So you're saying that you have difficulty with referring individuals because of turnover at the local office?
No, we have trouble receiving referrals. We're just not getting any, and wondered if there was something we could do to, I guess, make us better known to the counselors. And we tried reaching out. The number of referrals, according to the other providers that I've spoken with in Flagstaff, has dramatically decreased over the last few years, and I'm sure some of that obviously is due to COVID, but would expect it to be getting better now.
Yeah, definitely we've seen a lot of changes just with the pandemic, and then we went virtual. So we saw a lot of changes with services and individuals wanting to really pause on the voc rehab case and working with us. We are back in person and kind of working hybrid to the best of our ability to be able to serve individuals, whether they want to meet virtually or in person. We can now honor both of those requests. That being said, we do hope to start seeing, as we continue to get out there and kind of get the word out there, that we're back in person as well, and encouraging, our current clients to participate in their VR program. We're hoping to see that shift occur. What I can recommend is that if you could contact that local VR office that you work with and request to do a presentation at their unit office meeting. All the offices have meetings with their staff, and it'd be great if vendors would outreach and go ahead and make that request to remind everyone what everyone does and how you can help, and really answer any questions that might happen or might be occurring with that staff. We do have turnover, much like everyone else, but we continue to hire as needed and post those positions. So if anyone's interested in applying, there's different positions available within RSA that we post to the state website. But thank you for your question. We do hope to see an increase in referrals, but I do think we are still seeing the results of the pandemic and what occurred with kind of the world shutting down. But again, we're back in person, getting that messaging out, doing as much outreach as we can to hopefully see that turn occur in a more drastic measure than like a trickle in. So we continue to be out there. So please feel free to invite us to do any kind of presentations at your local agency or out in the community. Please don't hesitate to reach out, because we are more than willing to do outreach and presentations. Thank you for your question.
Do we have any other questions? Take advantage. You have Alicia here front and center. Oh, we've got a raised hand. Go on, Melinda.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. I wanted to ask, is there any like priority of service for referrals made by tribal VR offices that have MOUs with the state office?
What do you mean priority service?
Yes, it's just our understanding that there's a long waiting list. They're backed up here in the Tucson office, and I was just wondering if there was, priority for those that already have an agreement, like if it's a tribal VR office needing assistance from the state office, or do they still have to wait the same period?
Great question. There is no wait list. I do want to stress that we are not under a wait list in any capacity. So please feel free to contact and follow up with your VR office that you're working with. For tribal VR, we always willing and able to assist with any additional supports and services and work together to assist the individual. So please reach out. We do not have a wait list. We are able to serve individuals at this
Oh,
time.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alicia, we had a question in the chat, and maybe it is the local office, but who do we contact if we want to set up a Q&A with VR?
You can contact the local office for you to kind of get that relationship started, and they can do a presentation, answer any questions, whatever it might be, let you know when the next orientation is occurring, if that's helpful. I hope that answers that question. Oh, someone's asking for the referral form. Okay.
Yep, yeah, I provided the, Melissa, for you that
Thank you.
asked for the referral form, I provided you the link directly to the website, and then you can find the referral form there. It's in a fillable format.
That referral form does go to a mailbox that we have someone at one of our offices. They go ahead and they open those and send those out to the local VR offices. Again, I'll always recommend contacting the local VR office directly, but you are more than willing to fill out that referral form and send it in.